Only mode.
Welcome to the Best Friends Live Expert Power Hour on how to run a year-end digital campaign with our two amazing experts, Amy Starnes, Best Friends Director of Digital Engagement, and Kate Moore, Senior Manager of Digital Campaigns and Email Marketing. We're so grateful for them to be here with us and for you to be here with us, taking an hour of your precious time. We know everybody's busy. We hope you'll walk away inspired to try some things with your year-end fundraising that will have a huge impact. A couple of housekeeping things. The panel on the right, if you kind of go down to the bottom area, you'll see a section that says questions. If you click on the left arrow, it will turn down and expand open that area where you can chat in your questions. We definitely want you to ask questions along the way. Kate and Amy will be sharing with you some proactive information, but when those questions come to you, please chat them in, and Rhea and myself will help facilitate those questions, making sure those get to our speakers. And we'll turn the time over to them.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. This is Amy Starnes. As Amy Charlton mentioned, I am the Director of Digital Engagement at Best Friends Animal Society. And I have with me Kate Moore, the Senior Manager of Digital Campaigns and Email Marketing. Kate and I work really closely together, and I would challenge you to find two people who love year-end digital fundraising more than we do. So we're really excited to share with you today some tips and opportunities to really maximize what you're doing in your digital channels to help drive revenue for your organization during the holidays. So just a little bit about me. I've been with Best Friends for about 5.5 years. Previous to Best Friends, I worked at the MSPCA in Boston. So I was the person who did all of the digital things. So if you are also the person who did all of the digital things and are the only person at your organization doing all of the digital things, I feel you and I relate. And my experience before that was in digital agencies, healthcare, some internet startups. And now Kate will tell you a little bit about herself.
Hey guys, I'm Kate. I've been with Best Friends for about 3 years now. I work with Amy on the digital engagement team. My focus, as you can guess from my title, is on our digital campaigns. So that's fundraising, engagement, whatever we do in the digital space, as well as email marketing. And my background is really focused on email marketing. I came to Best Friends as an email marketing manager, and my previous role was with the Nature Conservancy, also doing email. So I've got some good, solid email nonprofit experience to bring to the table, and lots of year ends under my belt. So as Amy said, we are big fans of year end, lots of great tips to share with you guys today, and we hope you have a lot to take away from this.
Awesome. So as I think you guys all know, year-end really is the most wonderful time of year for raising money for your organization. It's the one time of year when people are feeling the most generous and are looking for those places that they can contribute to at the end of the year during the holidays that they feel really good about. So don't be shy, about making sure that your organization is top of mind for them when they're in that generous mentality. So I want to share some industry metrics. I have a link at the bottom of this slide, and as Amy said, previously, we'll be sharing out these slides with you so you can refer back to them. But this is from a document called the M&R Year-End Roundup. M&R is an agency that works with a lot of nonprofits in a lot of different verticals, and they actually put together some really great metrics, both around year-end and around digital programs all year round. They put out a benchmarking document every year that Best Friends participates in, as well as a lot of other organizations of various sizes. And it's a really helpful tool. So, if there are benchmarks that you wish you had to compare your program to, check out M&R's website and check out their benchmarks. Like I said, it's helpful all year round, not just at year end, but I do have some metrics here that they gathered from year end 2017 that we want to share. So 2017 was an interesting year-end period. I'm sure you all remember, in the post-election moment, there were some organizations, in in some different spaces in environment, reproductive rights, you know, some of those spaces that we're seeing a lot of attention and a lot of giving, but that didn't really detract from giving overall in the nonprofit sector. So overall, holiday online giving was up 12% across all nonprofits who were surveyed through M&R. So that's really positive. For this year, from what I've heard so far, everyone is expecting, you know, another pretty good year. You know, who knows what might happen between now and then, but you know, we'll be hopeful that we'll continue to see that upward growth. It's something that I've seen, you know, really for the past, you know, at least 5 to 7 years, you know, that we've been continuing to see online giving be an area of growth. The next metric here, this might surprise you, and I don't want you to feel like this is something that you need to do, but nonprofit surveyed sent an average of 11 appeals in December. That probably feels like a lot. It is, but I don't want you to feel like that's something that you know, that you need to do, especially if you're just starting out with your digital fundraising program. It's just kind of a benchmark that I think is helpful to understand, you know, that people are sending a lot of appeals in December, and we're going to talk about how to really make your appeals, you know, really pop and really be, you know, something that's of value to you. But just an interesting metric so you kind of know what's out there. Average response rate's about 0.08%, an average gift from email, which is really your best bet in terms of year-end fundraising, about $105. So those are pretty strong metrics. 81% of organizations surveyed had used paid ads. That's mostly in social, and really when we talk about social advertising, we're almost always talking about Facebook advertising. So if this is something that you have a little bit of budget for and are thinking about using at year end, you know, paid advertising, especially in Facebook, is probably going to be where you would want to focus that. And then we're going to spend some time talking about Giving Tuesday. That is our favorite day. And 88% of organizations had a match on Giving Tuesday. So if you haven't used a match tactic before, that's the idea, you know, that every gift given on that day will be matched up to a certain amount. Matches are great. Everybody loves matches. We love matches. And Giving Tuesday is really a day when there's a lot of that opportunity. So why are we talking about digital? You know, digital really has a low barrier to entry, more so than it has at any point in the past. There's so many things that we can do, you know, using our social tools, email tools, our website, that allow, you know, you to really get the information that you want to share out to as many folks as you can, without needing to be a web developer, you know, without needing to have a really, you know, high tech skill set. It is still helpful. I'll always give a plug for, you know, going on Udemy and doing a $10 course in HTML and CSS just to learn a couple basics to help you out. But, you know, there's so much you can do with tools like MailChimp, you know, which is a free email platform up to a certain number of email subscribers. It's a great tool if you haven't already used it. There's, you know, tools like Drupal that are free CMSs that are open source for your website. And then, you know, Facebook and Instagram within Facebook are, you know, just continually bringing out new tools for you to use to help make this easier. It's also pretty cost effective, you know, more so than, you know, direct mail or some of those other programs that have, you know, higher overhead. And it is immediate. And at the holidays, there are a couple of moments that we're going to talk about that really, you know, that immediacy is something that works so well in our digital channels. So speaking to that, there are 3 important dates that I want you guys to put on your calendar. If you do nothing else during the holidays, these are your 3 best bets. Around the Thanksgiving holiday, you want to think about doing a stewardship touch point. And when we say a stewardship touch point, it's just an opportunity to share about the good work that you're doing, to say thank you to the people who have supported you all year long, to really warm them up and fill them with those, you know, warm, fuzzy feelings, and to get your organization into their minds before they start thinking about their year-end giving. So think about doing a stewardship touch point. This can be a video, this can be, you know, just a thank you email that you send out, a beautiful graphic, you know, something that really shows the work that you're doing and expresses your gratitude to the people who allow you to make that work happen. And then Giving Tuesday is going to be on November 27th. It's the Tuesday preceding Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Giving Tuesday it's your best bet. If you're going to do one fundraising ask during the holidays, we encourage you to do it on Giving Tuesday. Donors are primed to give on this day, and we're going to talk about some tactics for Giving Tuesday later, but it is now the biggest giving day of the year. The biggest giving day of the year used to be December 31st. That is now bumped down to number 2, but it is still a really important giving day for your organization. So for whatever reason, we as people inherently are procrastinators, I guess, around the holidays, but there is a huge bump in the number of people who give on the last day of the year. The reason that we believe that people give on the last day of the year is because it's the last day that they can deduct gifts off their taxes. Due to changing tax laws, that may not be so relevant, but the behavior is still there. So you want to make sure that you are also there and encouraging people to give a last chance to give this year on December 31st. So if you do nothing else, these are your 3 best days to focus on. And then we're going to talk about the channels that you can leverage. Email, like I said earlier, is really your best bet for fundraising in digital all year round, but especially at the holidays. And Kate's going to tell you some great tips about email. Social media, there's so many opportunities within social, to really focus. I would recommend still continuing to focus on what you're doing on Facebook. That's still your primary revenue driver. Instagram does have some great opportunities that you can do, but if you have to pick one, if you have to focus in one place and your goal is fundraising, Facebook is where you want to be. And then we're going to spend a little time talking about your website as well. People are going to go to your website looking to give at the holidays, and you want to make sure that that's as easy for them to do as possible. And we don't want to forget about our donation forms. We're going to talk about donation forms a little bit to see if there are some opportunities there within your program where you might be able to enhance some of your donation forms to really help with the conversion of people giving on them. And then one of the things that we just sort of want to remind everyone about is the key tenets of digital fundraising. Year-end digital fundraising is no different inherently than digital fundraising the rest of the year. So you want to keep these things in mind. You want to make sure that you are telling the story of your work. What is that unique story that you have that illustrates the work that you do? If you are a foster-based organization that works exclusively with kittens, you want to make sure that you're telling the story of a wonderful foster family that stepped up and saved a litter of kittens. You want to make sure that that story clearly ties back to the mission of the work that you do. And then in fundraising, it is so powerful to use one story to represent the thousands who are impacted by your work. So, using the story of, one particular dog, Buster, and showing, the whole trajectory of his life and how he came to, his happy home is a way to talk about and make people understand, the thousands of animals that you helped all year round. So always remember that one story, focusing on that one animal, allows people to make that connection, and that could be really powerful. And then fundraising at the end of the day is about relationships. It is about your donor's relationship to the cause that you represent and to your organization, and your relationship back to them. So remember, these are people who are entrusting their money to you because you are doing the work that they want to be a part of in the world. And that really is all about empowering your donors. So making them feel like, they are truly special, like they are making this work happen. We're going to talk a little bit about some donor-centric language that helps to do this. And then the last thing is to make it easy. You guys all know, the world that we live in is filled with giant, tech companies like Amazon and Google who have really distilled down how simple it can be to make e-commerce transactions. It's far too simple for me to shop from my phone these days. But that's the world that we live in. And so one of the things that we really want to make sure we're doing is just making it easy for people to donate. So if you're getting ready to send out an email appeal, before you do it, take a look and see, is it easy to figure out how to donate from that email that you received? Wherever it links to, and by the way, that should be your donation form directly. Is it easy for them to fill any information? Is it easy for them to find the donate button on your website if they go directly to it? So just trying to think about making it as simple as possible is really going to help you to make sure that you're seeing all of those donations that people are inclined to give. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kate, our email expert, who is going to tell you about some best practices for writing a good email appeal.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, Amy and I are going to talk specifically about those 3 key channels that she mentioned a minute ago. And honestly, you know, it's important to understand, as she already said, that, you know, year-end fundraising is really at the heart of things, not that much different from our fundraising around the rest of the year. So a lot of these are really important best practices, but they're so important at this time of year, as well as, you know, the rest of the year. So we want to make sure that they're top of mind. And we will come back around to some year-end specific tactics towards the end of the presentation. So year-end best practices for email in particular, you want to use clear, concise copy. Email readers definitely skim your emails, whether they're reading them on desktop or mobile. And mobile users especially have a really short attention span. So, you know, I advise not taking something you're sending in direct mail and plopping it into your email. Really think about, you know, how much attention you're going to get from the reader when you're constructing your email and how quickly you can get to the point. You want to use you and your language focused on the donor versus we and I being focused on the organization or the email writer. I'll talk more about this in a moment, but you know, it's really important to keep that focus on the donor. You want to include a text link in the first 1 to 2 paragraphs. You'll have people who, as soon as they see the emails from you and what you want them to do, they're going to be ready to act. So you want to make sure it's really easy for them to go ahead and engage with that email and follow through on what you're asking them to do. And you want to be really clear about what you want the reader to do. Don't make them, you know, try to figure it out. Don't use sort of waffling language like, if you can, we would love it. If you would maybe consider making a gift, like just be really direct with them. They want to know what you want them to do, so there's no need to kind of tiptoe around it. And along those same lines, you want to focus on one call to action in your email. At year end, especially on those key days of Giving Tuesday and December 31st, you really want to be focused on donate. That's what people are there to do. Save, you know, your adopt call to actions for other times in the month. Any other calls to action that you have out there, you know, those days are not the right place for them. So really focus on driving people to donate when they're in that mindset and in that place. So just another moment to talk about being donor-centric, which is that language. Donor-centric language is really about making your donor the hero and the focus of the story that you're trying to tell. So here's a great example. Not very donor-centric language is, please donate to us so we can save more animals. It's very focused on what you as the organization are doing or the email sender are doing. The donor-centric version, if you flip it a little bit, is please donate today. Your life-saving gift helps to save more animals. So the focus is really on the donor. They can see exactly how, you know, taking action and making a gift is going to translate into saving more animals. The organization, your organization, is really just the middleman, the intermediate in a way, and you're really trying to make the connection between their gift and the actual impact on real animals. So keep that in mind as you write your email appeals and anything in any channel, honestly, that you want to be very focused on helping the donors see themselves in your story. And then especially at year end, but again, this goes for the whole year round, think about your email audience. A lot of us, when we start out emailing and when your list is a little bit smaller, you know, you just send everything to everyone because it's just not worth segmenting, or you don't have the data for it, whatever it is. But especially at year end, people are getting a whole lot of email. So it's really worth thinking about who is most likely to respond to your emails. And in most cases, this is going to be people who are already donors, your volunteers, other people who you can identify as very engaged supporters. So they might be people who are fostering, people who have attended events, you know, whatever kind of information you have about people, use that to really try to focus on the people who are most likely to respond to your appeals. So one thing I'd like you guys to consider is, and so say we're talking about Giving Tuesday, consider sending your email to everyone in the morning. So we'll talk about this more later on, but today's Giving Tuesday, give to us, we have a match, whatever it is. And then later in the day, think about resending it to these key audiences, your donors, your volunteers, whoever you've identified as very engaged supporters. Because A, they're going to be more interested in getting more email from you because they are highly engaged, but they're also more likely to respond to those emails. And so you can give them more touch points. If you run other appeals throughout December, that resend strategy is really effective too. And you can do it within the day on December 31st as well. So that's one thing definitely worth considering at this time of year. So 2 types of fundraising appeals that I love to encourage people to start with are the story-based appeal and the urgent tangible appeal. And these work for pretty much everyone. It's a really easy way to kind of figure out what to talk about in an appeal. The first, the story-based appeal, is sharing the success story about an individual animal who's been in your care, who's found their happily ever after, and then ask your supporters to help animals like Scruffy or whoever. You know, you can, every single one of us has great stories, as Amy was mentioning earlier, about individual animals, and you can really extrapolate that out to show the impact of the donor's gift and the work that you do, and it helps you put a happy ending onto, you know, what might have started out as a sad story. But honestly, you know, every supporter of, you know, animal welfare organizations, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for those happy stories for animals. So use the individual to show, you know, the greater impact of your mission, and really, you know, show the impact of a donor's gift. The second one, the urgent tangible appeal, is really focusing on a very specific need, whether it's new kennels or a costly medical procedure, anything that you need to fund that, you know, might be appealing to donors, and ask your supporters to help fund it. This works year-round. People love to donate to very specific needs, as I'm sure you guys have all seen, but it works at year-end too, so don't forget about it, especially if it's relevant for you at this time. You know, I always like to remind people that it's restricted revenue. When you ask a donor to give to something very specific like that, you need to use the money for that item or need, but especially for smaller organizations, this can be incredibly impactful for your funding needs. So on the next slide, I have just a quick example of a story-based appeal there we go. This is one we actually used, I think, 2 years ago at year end. So you can see that we've got some cute ornament graphics going on to make it feel festive. And we talk about, you know, the holiday season being an inspiration already, but it goes on to tell the story of Caspian, this adorable senior blind deaf dog, and tells, you know, how our work basically, you know, made it possible for him to find his forever family, and how, you know, you can, with your gift, you can help, you know, more animals like Caspian. So it's really, again, so simple and straightforward, but people really respond to it, and we do all have these stories, so you just got to use them.
And I want to point out, you can see a couple of the tactics that Kate mentioned in this email. So those orange links in text, you know, there are links in the very first paragraph, in the second paragraph, as well as that donate button. One thing that is always really important is to make sure you have both the donate button and text links. Some people have images turned off by default on their email browser, especially on mobile, so they might not even see that donate button. So you always want to make sure it's like a belt and suspender strategy. So make sure that there's a link, and make sure it's high up in the email. As Kate mentioned, you know, people may not scroll. They may also just be ready to give. They might see that cute face and be like, yep, I love you guys, I'll definitely give a donation. So you just, that's really speaks to the making it easy, you know, principle that we talked about earlier for digital fundraising.
Yep. So let's take a quick pause. I don't see any questions in the question box. Amy, have you seen anything come in for questions yet?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, so we'll keep moving on. We'll have time at the end too. although I did just see
Oh,
one.
just as you said that. The question is, our donation software has the ability to send text messages to our donors. Has this option been used to send a brief appeal to donors, and has it been effective?
So
That's
text to
a great
donate
question.
is tricky. Yes, it is. It's a great question. It's tricky for multiple reasons. One is that most cell phone service providers limit the amount of money you can give in an actual text to donate program. And actually, maybe I should take a step back. You can, there's two ways to fundraise through text, and one is to do text to donate, where you text a certain number, like a 5-digit number, and you tell them to donate, and it comes from off of your phone bill. The other way would be to link to a donation form, but the text to donate has a dollar limit on it. And the other sort of challenge is that, as with any channel, you have to have sort of a regular stream of communications with folks. So in email, you're not just sending appeals, you're sending, great stories, you have a newsletter, you invite people to events, so you have an ongoing communication stream with them. So when your email shows up in their inbox, they know who you are and, kind of what to do. Same goes for social media. That can be a little bit more challenging for folks with text, just because it's another channel to manage. So I would not suggest sending an appeal, even if you're linking to a donation form, through text, unless you have a consistent text program. It may be worth considering, but I wouldn't just kind of throw a text into the mix at year end and kind of see what happens, because more than likely people are just gonna opt out because they haven't heard from you in a while. Amy, anything you want to add to that?
I would just say, if you do decide, and that is a program that you've been working on, make sure if you're sending them to a donation form that donation form is mobile responsive. And we'll talk a little bit more about donation forms later, but it's really important that, people are obviously reading that text on their phone. Wherever you send them to, you want to make sure it looks good on their phone. This is actually a tip that I suggest everyone do after this presentation. Go take a look at what your donation forms look like on your mobile phone. If you haven't done it in a while, or you've never done it before, it's a good opportunity to see what that experience looks like. Email is the place, especially, where people are they're reading emails on their phone. You guys know you all do it. So you want to make sure if people click through, that's a good experience for them on their phone. So that if there's opportunities to update those forms, now is the time to do that before the holidays.
Yep, great point.
All right, let's hop into social media.
So as Amy mentioned earlier in her overview, Facebook is really the biggest place we're seeing fundraising happen on social media, and the biggest player in the game, if you will, is Facebook Donate. So if you guys aren't familiar with it, you can see here kind of what the experience looks like, but you're able to put a donate button in a couple different places, and we'll talk about that. But people can complete their donation within Facebook, stay within Facebook, and that is really effective for conversion. So if you're not already signed up, we've got the link here. Again, we'll be sharing the slides out after the presentation, but definitely get signed up. On the next slide, I've got a couple great features of it that you'll be able to take advantage of. The biggest being that Facebook is the payment processor. So you're not paying any processing fees like you do with credit cards. And that is a huge, huge thing, especially at year end when volume of donation goes up, that credit card fee can jump up really high. So that's really, really an attractive feature. The other thing that you guys, I think, probably are most familiar with is that you can put donate buttons almost everywhere. So you can put them on individual posts, you can add them to Facebook Live videos, you can update the donate button on your page to use Facebook Donate, and people seem to really respond to that donate button. It's just super easy, people love buttons, but also, it seems like donors have gotten used to giving through Facebook, and we're seeing that grow more and more. So having that in front of people so they can respond whenever they're motivated by whatever content you're putting out, it can be really effective. And the last thing that's really exciting is that people can start fundraisers for you. So we've seen a lot of action around birthday fundraisers, which would expect a lot of you guys are too, because Facebook is promoting it pretty heavily. But year end is another time when people will start fundraisers for organizations that they care about, and that can be a really, really effective fundraising tool too, that honestly, like, you don't have to do that much work for. And Amy, you learned something yesterday that you wanted to share with this group too about fundraisers, right?
Yeah, so I had really great timing meeting with someone at Facebook on their social good team yesterday. One of the things that they shared that they're seeing a lot of interesting traction around is that verified companies are now able to add a donate button for your organization. So they shared some examples. You guys might have seen there was one where PayPal as a company actually put a button for HSUS on their page and fundraised for them. Madonna also did one that was similar for an organization. Chase Bank did one that was similar for an organization. I'm forgetting which ones. But this also is a really great way that you could engage like a corporate partner that you work with in your community. So if your local Subaru dealership is someone who supports your organization, you could see if they would be interested in doing a fundraiser for you at the holidays, and they could basically add that same donate button for your organization onto their page. And it's a really great opportunity to get your name in front of, their Facebook fan list. I mean, if that Subaru dealership, for example, has 10,000 people who follow them, that's 10,000 people who, might not, know about you or might not have ever had the opportunity to donate to you before. So I thought it was a really interesting opportunity that I wanted to make sure to share with you guys today, because I think there's some really great abilities to reach out to new folks because of that new feature that they've added for the donate button.
Thank you. And then on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about Facebook Lives and the donate button. Facebook Lives are really super effective tools, especially when you put that donate button on there, but they're really great at year end too. We have had a lot of success with Facebook Lives on Giving Tuesday and other giving days. They help sort of create some excitement in the social media space for that day of giving. But it really doesn't have to be all that complicated. We've got a couple ideas here that you guys can use. You can take people on a tour of your facility, take them for a walk with a dog. If you have a fun event like cat yoga or something like that, you can stream it for users at home. You can just meet some individual pets and talk through their stories. If you have a local influencer, you could ask them to do one for you for their audience. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it definitely doesn't have to be highly produced. You don't want it to be. So definitely take advantage of that to give your social media supporters sort of a behind the scenes look at the work you do and help them just further engage with what you do in your facility and through your work wherever you do it. Key things are, don't forget to add the donate button before you go live so that it's on there. Unfortunately, there's no way to add it after you start. So it's just a really good thing to add to your checklist. And the best practice these days is to make them about 10 to 15 minutes. And that seems to get the best engagement from people, and people can, pop in and out. So definitely give that a try for this year end.
Hey, Kate.
Yeah.
Specific to Facebook Donate, we know there's many places you can add the donate button. So we have a question that came in. If you do use Facebook Donate for multiple posts on lots of different places, how would you be able to distinguish what funds came in from which post? Do they have a tracking feature on the back end?
So when you pull your data out of Facebook to add to your database or whatever it is, most of the gifts will have a link to a post attached to them, so you can see it that way. It's not the easiest thing to use, in that it just shows you like specifically for each post how much money it raised, I don't think, but you can get to that data and see what drove the gift. So I'm going to talk about reasons to use Facebook Donate versus reasons to link to your donation form, because obviously you can do both and there are pros and cons of both. When you use Facebook Donate, your donors can give without leaving Facebook, which I mentioned earlier, and that is definitely good for conversions. As much as you can let people, complete the action you want them to in the space that they're in, the better, the more likely they are to actually complete that action. Again, no fees, which I'm a huge fan of. And those personal fundraisers are a really great feature that, a lot of folks don't have as an option on their website. So that's great to use as well. But reasons you might want to link to your donation form is that you do get really limited data from Facebook. And like I mentioned a moment ago, you can, export a file of folks to add to your database, but you're not getting addresses. On Facebook, the donors decide whether to give you even their email address, and honestly, we've seen a lot of people don't choose to do that. So it just makes it very hard to steward them, keep in touch with them, follow up with them about their gift. It also, can make it really hard to match them up to donors in your database. So that can be really frustrating. And you also, on your own forms, you can control tracking. So back in line with that last question, when you drive to your own forms, you are going to get more information about where they came from. If you're using distinct donation forms for distinct efforts or Google Analytics tags, you'll just get a lot more information about what's driving those donations. So there's pros to both. Honestly, we use a mix of both, and that seems to work best for us. And I'd probably recommend that to most folks, especially as you're getting started. And so I want to also touch on Instagram. It is becoming more popular as a fundraising channel, but still nowhere near Facebook, but you can fundraise on Instagram. The biggest one is doing the link in bio, which you can see here as an example. So if you are doing some promotions or posts, and especially honestly at year end, you could put a link in your profile bio, linking directly to that donation form, and just direct people to click on that link. If you have a business account with at least 10,000 followers, you can use the swipe up functionality in stories, which is very popular and has been doing quite well for us. Obviously, there's a limitation of needing to have that certain size account, but if you're there, that's worth checking out. I mean, like I said, it's a growing channel. It's worth being there and being present. And if people want to engage with you there, making sure, you're talking about donating, especially at year end, but Facebook is definitely where to put most of your effort. I think that's our last slide on social media. Are there any other questions before we move on to website?
We'll have time for questions at the end too.
Yes, I don't see any currently in the queue, so.
Great. All right. Well, we're going to talk about your website, which is your main tool for fundraising, at the end of the day. So I want to actually just talk about some site giving fundamentals, because putting these in place before the holidays will, make sure that you're helping to see the best conversions for people who are coming to give at year end, but it's also going to help you all year round. So this is really what I would make sure you've got, on your checklist to make sure you've got your ducks in a row for the holidays. So 3 site giving fundamentals. Take a look at your navigation. Is it clear and is it focused? A lot of times we have the tendency with navigation on our websites to add in everything that we can think of on that top level of navigation, but a lot of times you can nest those different categories under an existing top level category. So you want to try to keep it clean and simple as much as possible. Think about how you can, categorize your information so that it's just really clean. The other thing is that this has just become a best practice for all nonprofits. You want to take your donate button and you want to have it all the way to the right and you want to highlight it. So, so many organizations will kind of hide their donate button because, you know, we're self-conscious about asking you for money. But in reality, what you're doing is you're helping people to make it easy to donate. You don't want to ask people to hunt around to figure out how to give on your website. So the standard is to have your donate button all the way to the right. And if there's a way that you can highlight it, either by having it as a different color or, you know, changing the font or just a little something so that it's easy to see, that's also helpful. And then because your donate button should be in your navigation or in your header, it should be persistent in all parts of the site. So make sure that if you're clicking through to different parts of your site, the donate button follows you. And if you've got it in your, you know, your wrapper for your website, then that should happen. So here's just a couple examples of what this could look like. You know, everyone's navigation is different, and that is fine. The MSPCA here has a very, very simplified navigation. They have adoption, veterinary care, because that's a huge part of their business, and programs and resources. And then you can see they've got that nice clear donate button with a cute little heart next to it, which I love, off to the right. So that's very simple and very easy to figure out how to give. Animal Refuge League of Greater Portland has more navigation items, but it's still really clear as to what those categories are. And, you know, those categories really align to the work that they're doing and the focus that they have. They do a lot of events, so it's totally cool that they have events, you know, out there. You know, they have information about who they are, about their adoption, about volunteering, and you can see make a gift all the way over to the right, a little bit highlighted again with a super cute little heart, very nice little touch there. But it's really easy if I come to one of these websites and I look at that top level navigation to figure out how to donate. Now, once you click those buttons, you want to go directly to a donation form. I pulled out some just ridiculously good looking donation forms as examples. They're inspirational, but you want to make sure, take a look at your donation form, make sure your logo is in the upper left-hand corner. For most of us, our donation form, you know, pages are not going to be the same system as our website, right? You might have, you know, an additional system that does your email and websites. You might be using, you know, a different type of payment processor. So you want to make sure that your logo is clear up in that top corner. Remember that people could be coming to this donation form from social media, from your email, from your website, and that brand reinforcement just helps people feel confident and make sure that you're in the right place. You can also see on this form in the lower left, right corner, that charity navigator, 4-star charity rating, and that nice little lock. Those are like trust icons that help people to feel more secure about who you are, and you know that you're a legitimate organization, and that they can make a gift securely. You know, culturally, I think we're getting a lot more used to the idea of giving our credit card numbers online, but there are still folks who are a little bit leery about it. So the more that you can kind of add that additional feeling of security, you know, the better off you'll be in terms of getting folks to actually complete that gift. One of the things that you want to make sure that you do on your donation form is to show what your gift does. This ridiculously good looking form from Feeding America does a really great job of showing the impact of your donation. So they actually have a metric, you know, where they have, you know, distilled it down so that every dollar equals 10 meals to families in need. That's really fantastic. If you have a metric like that, that's fantastic. You should use it. If you don't, though, think about, you know, what are some tangible ways that you can explain to people, you know, what the impact of their gift does. And, you know, make sure that you're very clear about how your gift supports, you know, the animals in your mission. So you don't need to put a ton of language on your donation form. In fact, you know, 1 or 2 sentences is great. A nice headline, you know, 1 or 2 sentences that kind of explains, you know, the impact of your giving. That's a really helpful tool for you to have on your donation form. And then take a look at your donation forms and look at the number of fields that you have on there. The rule for donation forms is that the fewer fields, the more people will complete it. You know, conversion rates on donation forms can be around like 16, 17%, which I think is probably heartbreaking. I feel sad about it every time I think about it. So, that's only 16 to 17% of people who come to that form who are actually completing it. That could be because they get overwhelmed. That could be because, they get distracted. That could be because of a million reasons that you can't control. But one thing you can control is just trying to make that form as easy as possible. So take a look at the form fields that you have on your donation form. If you're asking people a bunch of questions about how they heard about you, or have they adopted an animal from you, or, what is their favorite, type of cat, think about asking those questions at another time. Your focus for the donation form is purely to get them to complete that transaction and complete the gift. And then if you want to send them a survey later to ask them more about themselves, that's a great thing to do. That's a great piece of stewardship to let people know that you care about them. But really focus on the fewest fields possible. The job of your donation form is to, get people to complete it. And that's the biggest challenge once you get them there. If you've written this beautiful email appeal that you've spent all this time on and send them to a donation form that's got 30 fields and they are overwhelmed and they don't want to give all that information up, then that's super sad, and you've spent all that work on your appeal, but didn't quite follow that through to the donation form. So take a look at your donation forms and see if there are some opportunities there. All right, any questions? Amy, I think I see a question.
Yes, we just had one come in on the fact that their donation form with this particular organization is PayPal, and so they want to know what some things to keep in mind when choosing a donation form. So she wants to know if you have suggestions for some specific companies who offer donation form services.
Yeah, so I will mention a lot of people use PayPal. A lot of donors really like PayPal because they have existing accounts, so they feel very secure about that. So PayPal is not a bad option to use. It's also super easy to set up. I would encourage you to keep PayPal as a giving option because so many people really like to give that way. We can certainly share some recommendations on some different donation platforms to check out. There's a lot of them out there, and I don't know if it's possible in the chat for people to share platforms that they're working with that they like, but there's a lot of different ones at a lot of different price points, and what you need might be different than what someone else needs. So Amy, maybe we could touch base and see if, we can share, we have some recommendations of, platforms to check out. We could share that out, for just options to research around a little bit to see if there are good fits for your organization.
Yes, we can totally do that. We could even do a discussion in the community and let people chime in there as well and share some of our tips as well. So that'd be great.
I love that. All right, great. So we are going to talk a little bit about your year-end campaign structure. It's really important to, before you kind of push all of these things out, to stop and get yourself organized. Year-end is a time when there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives outside of our fundraising. So, and then when you start to add on, different touch points, you've got multiple emails, you've got social posts, you've got all these things that you want to do. There may be things that you want to do on site, at your, if you have an adoption center. So it can get confusing really quickly. And one of the things that we're going to share out after the session too is a campaign brief. It's actually the campaign brief that we developed for our team because we wanted a way to help keep ourselves organized. And it's just a template that you can use or might inspire you to create a different template that works for you to help kind of organize all of the things that you want to do. So when you're developing a campaign, this is kind of the timeline, right? You want to put together your campaign brief, which is going to have all of your key information, the dates when you need to do things by, when you're planning to send emails, all of the assets that you need, details around those assets, links, all of that, all of the details. You want to get all of the details figured out ahead of time because it will save you some stress and headaches. So you want to put that all together. You want to talk about what your goals are, the messages that you want to share. You want to make sure that all of your internal stakeholders have seen it, understand what's going on. That also saves you some time and some stress later on so that everyone feels really confident in what you've got up your sleeve for the holidays. Once you get that all set, you want to go ahead and put together all of your content, do all of your writing, your email, using your email templates, find those images from all year round, your great images, that you want to incorporate into, your social posts or your emails or put on your website. You want to go ahead and execute your campaign, which is going to be, pushing out all of that content when you're supposed to, and then reporting. It is really easy to say, all right, we're done. Phew, we got it out the door. Let's move on to the next thing. But it's so important that you stop and give yourself a little time to report on what you did. So, take a look at how those emails performed, how your social posts did, and, do some thinking, like what worked well, what didn't work so well. You can, for reporting, there's a lot of different tools you can use. Kate mentioned the Facebook, donate dashboard, which it's not super comprehensive, but there is, some good data you can pull out of that. Your email program will have metrics on all of the emails that you've sent. Your donation form platform or PayPal will have, information on the revenue that you brought in through that. If you use Google Analytics, that will tell you some great info too. So there's a lot of places you can get reporting from. And you can get pretty in the weeds on that, but make sure that you're, looking for some of your key metrics that you define in your campaign brief to really track, so you can see how you're doing. And then next year, when you grow your program, you'll be able to see, how that performance looks like over time. And then in terms of a timeline for year end, it is not too early to be starting now. We seem to start our year end earlier and earlier every year. We're well within our campaign at this point. So, it tends to creep up on us a little bit, but I highly recommend, if you haven't started already, it's a great time to start. Let today be your kickoff. And get out ahead of that as much as you can, because, the holidays tend to be a little bit of a crazy time. Now, in terms of the content that you want to share, there's so much stuff that you've been doing all year round. And sometimes it can feel at year end like, what do you want to say? You can look back, look at your best stories of the year. It's a great time to remind people of those. If you aren't sure what you consider your best stories, you could look back at, the things that you've shared on social media and see what's drawn the best engagement. You could look back at, if you've been sending previous emails, if there's, email stories that people resonated with people. If you had like a really great PR moment, where there was an amazing, story that got some media attention, you want to bring that story back. So think about what those best stories were that you had. You want to pull out your best images of the year, videos that worked well, or think about creating some new videos in social. And your impact statements. I pulled together, this is just a little snippet from One Tail at a Time Dog Rescue in Chicago that they sent out from one of their emails last year, where they did a really nice job of representing the work that they did all year. So being able to say, 550 dogs rescued, 26 kittens rescued, all of those kinds of numbers, that's really a great way to remind people of the work that you've done all year long because of their support. And, so it's a great time for them to give. So, you want to really kind of think about what is the best content that you have. One of the things that I think, we all have going for us in animal welfare is people love to see pictures of our animals. So make sure, that you are taking those great pictures of the animals that you've helped save all year and getting them in front of your donors. And then just a note on stewardship. It's really important to say thank you. It's really important to say thank you. One of the things that you want to make sure that you do, if you're doing, a campaign all December or a Giving Tuesday campaign, something toward the end of the month, is to send a thank you after the campaign ends. It's always surprising to me how few organizations do this, so it really stands out to donors. It shows that that they made a gift and that you really appreciate it and that you took the extra time to say thank you. This also gives you an opportunity to report back. So for example, we strongly believe in reporting back when we do a campaign. If we tell you there's a goal we're trying to reach, we want to let you know if we reach the goal or not. That's something that's really motivating to people. And I feel like it's a little bit too much of a cliffhanger if you don't get to share, with folks how you did. So, if you do a Giving Tuesday match, where gifts are going to be matched up to $10,000, send an email to all those folks the next day that said like, yay, we met the match. That's a great thing to do. You can also say, we didn't quite hit the match, but, we still received, over $7,000 for the animals. P.S. You can still donate if you'd like to. So that also gives you a nice little opportunity, to message again. So here's just an example of a thank you video that we created a little montage video, but sent out this email to everyone who donated to our Giving Tuesday campaign last year. Just, full of gratitude for all those people who donated, because, the work doesn't get done without their support. So we really want them to know how much we appreciate them. And speaking of Giving Tuesday is it's amazing. It's an International Day of Giving. People are primed to give. So, you want to be a part of this. When Giving Tuesday first started to, kind of get formed and kind of start to kick off, there was more of a general sense of, it's a way to get involved and do some good in the world. And there were a lot of different asks that people were putting out there, asks to sign up to volunteer, asks to sign up to foster, or, do a day of service in your community. Those sorts of things still do exist, but really the focus of Giving Tuesday has evolved to a place of giving. It's, people are primed to give on that day, so you want to make sure that you are there as well. Some great things about Giving Tuesday, there's a built-in deadline. One of the greatest tactics in digital is the fact that you can do something in like a 24-hour period, and that deadline is very motivating to people. So you've probably seen, you might have a day of giving within your own state. It might be on Giving Tuesday. A lot of state day of giving programs have actually moved to Giving Tuesday to kind of maximize on that. But having that 24-hour deadline really inspires people to give, and motivates them to not think like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. They really will motivate to do it that day. It is also one of the few days when you really have the opportunity, I think, to communicate with your supporters multiple times in one day. We would not recommend sending multiple emails to your audience on almost any day, really, but you absolutely can, think about sending multiple emails around Giving Tuesday. We have started to send some emails ahead of Giving Tuesday to remind people and to prime them. Say Giving Tuesday is coming. You can give your gift early. That's a tactic that you could totally use. And then you can send an email on Giving Tuesday to say, today is Giving Tuesday. It's a great day to give, make a donation to help support the great work that happens all year round. And then you can send an additional email later in the day that says, don't forget to give by midnight, giving them that extra prompt. If you're doing a match that day, that's a great opportunity to give an update on a match. Generally speaking, the way we think about email is we have to have a reason to send every email. We don't do it just because we think, it seems like maybe we should do an email on this day. So really, make sure you have a reason to communicate, but Giving Tuesday gives you a reason. So that's a pretty nice opportunity and can really help you to boost your revenue. For social, really similar to email, you want to make sure that you're sharing that 24-hour deadline. You could use video, you can use Facebook Live to show your work and get donors excited about the work you do. I've seen some really great Facebook Lives from different organizations on this day to help keep people engaged. I would say the biggest thing to remember is show your animals. People want to see, cats and dogs. It's fun when they do something unexpected. It's also just, a warm, fuzzy, moment for someone to take a break from work and, see the great animals that you're helping and that they want to help as well. And then I wanted to mention last year, if you participated in Giving Tuesday on Facebook, there was a Facebook match that the Gates Foundation did with Facebook. And that match ran out pretty early, which Facebook knows was kind of a bummer because they had some stuff with time zones and some different, issues there. I don't know the exact details of what they're planning to do, but they have said that their plan for Giving Tuesday is bigger and better. So, keep that in mind. Keep in mind that Facebook is going to be promoting Giving Tuesday. My guess, and I can't confirm this, is there will probably be a match on that day that they'll promote again. That's my hope. but they will definitely be promoting Giving Tuesday. So make sure that you are there and, primed to encourage people to donate on that day to your organization.
And then we have a couple of questions. One is specific to Giving Tuesday. She's wanting to know if you think it's most effective to ask for specific items that may have emotional appeal, blankets, etc., or Amazon wish list, or is it most effective to ask for cash?
Cash donations are great with Facebook Donate, but people love the wish list too. So if you want to leverage your wish list on this day, that's also a great thing to do.
And there's another question that I can just ask really quickly right before that, which is about using video in appeals and when and where video is most appropriate in email. I would say that video is great to use in an appeal, but only if you can put the video on your donation form. You don't want to risk, losing the gift by linking to a YouTube video or somewhere else on your website. If it's going to be in the appeal, you want them to watch the video and make their gift in the same place, which, a lot of donation form platforms should be able to do to some extent.
Any other questions, Amy, that we have in the chat?
Nope, that's it in the queue.
Awesome. Well, I think we are right at time. So we hope that this was helpful. As you guys start to, prepare for your digital fundraising campaigns at the holidays, we wish you great success in helping to raise money for your organization. And keep an eye out for an email with some additional assets that we will share to help you jumpstart your program.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kate and Amy. Thanks for all of you who attended today. We look forward to doing more of these every month, and we hope that you'll join us. Thanks so much.